Hello, welcome to this video where I'm going to showcase some teams from the Ultra League and the Sunshine Cup. We have a lot of teams. I'm going to go through 5 of each. I will drop a link in the description to these graphs. We have here the Ultra League. We have on the other side the Sunshine Cup. Now, let's take a look at some of these teams from the Sunshine Cup first. The first team that we have here is from Patricky Albani, who got to top 8 at Curitiba last week, and he's running a Gligar, Munchlax, and Vigoroth. Munchlax now has Tackle buffed, opposed from last time that Sunshine Cup was around, and it really can be replaced by Miltank or Greedent that are also bulky, normal types. Now, one thing that Munchlax does well here is soak damage. That's basically what it's for. The Pokemon that are going to carry you here is that Gligar Vigoroth core, and Vigoroth is going to be on so many teams, I'll tell you that. One thing I do like about this team, there's only one Pokemon really weak to Vigoroth, and Gligar handles it well. The other Vigoroth is, neutral. So let's take a look at the next team. The next team I have here is from Elche, who knocked me out of the winners bracket at Worlds. And yeah, he got there to top 4 with 5 Pokemon, which is crazy. But his team that he got here is Shadow Bombsnow, Vigoroth, and Gligar. Now, one thing that I don't like per se about this team is that if you safe switch your own Vigoroth into a Vigoroth lead, then you're one turn behind, which means that if your opponent throws the Body Slam immediately, you're behind in energy, and that makes it tough. So you could also opt to safe switch the Gligar instead, but I do find it a bit of a riskier safe switch because of like opposing a Bombsnow that could answer it. On the other hand, though, I do think that Gligar also takes shields easily, so maybe it is the way. Either way, this is a very solid team, very good generalist, and like a Bombsnow takes shields very easily, so that's what I do like about this team here. The next team is from Ice Chris. It's actually, I think, the only team without Vigoroth, and it still stands really well on its own. Now, you do run Scourging Scent on the Ninetales because you don't have a Ninetales counter here, so you always want to be able to one-shot opposing Kanto Ninetales. What I really like here is that Ninetales takes shields easily, and in that case, Pidgeot can Brave Bird anything. There are very few things that resist flying in this meta, and I think that's what makes Pidgeot stand out here. Yeah, I do think it's a very all-around team from Ice Chris here. The next team is from Rajev, who won the Curitiba Regional last week, and he's running Gligar, Miltank, and Vigoroth. Now, this is very similar to what Patricky Albani suggested. However, he has the Miltank, and the difference is that Miltank has better coverage moves. Now, you do have Ice Beam and Thunderbolt. I think Ice Beam is preferred to one-shot potential Gligars, and then you can choose between Tackle or Rollout. Rollout does charge faster, so you get that Body Slam off quicker, but Tackle is better raw fast attack damage. It really is up to preference. I think both are good. If you want to cover the Gligar a little bit better, you probably want to run Ice Beam. If you want to run Vigoroth better, you probably want to run Tackle. The next thing that we have is from Zhu Muniz. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She was one of the most fascinating battlers to see just develop over the whole play Pokemon circuit, because now she got to top 3. She's been improving over and over, and I have no doubt that she will qualify for Worlds if she keeps going like that. But the team that she provided, also very similar to that of Rajev and Patricky Albani. However, there still is a difference. I think Double might even be better than Miltank and Munchlax, simply because you have that double kick, which charges really fast. It's a fighting fast attack, which makes you a little bit better against Pokemon like Vigoroth. I think that makes it really stand out. The team does do super great against the Gligar, though. Now, you do probably want to run Wild Charge, I think, as the double. That is what I would think. Simply because you one-shot Pidgeots, or almost one-shot Pidgeot with that, right? It's a little bit of a harder hitting nuke. It doesn't really help against Gligar, but I think there's not really any Psychic type. Unless you face a lot of Victini, you might want to consider Payback. It's really up to preference. But I think these two Pokemon, Double, Vigoroth, are probably the most flexible in this meta. So those were the Sunshine Cup teams that we have here from many really good Latam battlers, and you can find more on Rise his video. Again, I will put the link in the description. Now let's take a look at the Ultra League teams. First thing that we have here for Ultra League is from one of my friends that I met in Japan, Ishikawa Boy. He got to top 10 in Worlds. They're really impressive. We got a good picture here with him as well. It was really great meeting him. Anyway, his team is Dragon Breath Giratina with Shadow Sneak and Dragon Claw. He has the Tentacruel, which he says that the fast attack is started the charge attacks up to preference, either Acid Spray or Blizzard as second charge attack, and then Tapu Fini as the closer. I think that this team struggles a little bit with the Alolan Sandslash, but there's play. You can always keep the Tentacruel safe from the Alolan Sandslash if you stay with the Giratina, and Tentacruel usually really hard answers Pokemon like Tapu Fini, which is commonly paired with like an Alolan Sandslash. I think that the Steelix might be a little bit more difficult, but you do the same, and if you can align Tapu Fini to Steelix, you're actually in a pretty good spot. I do think that Registeel is probably the biggest problem. Giratina probably has to do some good teamwork with Tapu Fini there. Basically, Steel types are your enemies, but if you hate Pokemon like Charizard or opposing Tapu Fini, you're probably pretty good with this team. The next team is from fellow content creator Zionic. This is a team he featured before. It's Tapu Fini, Charizard, and Armored Mewtwo. Armored Mewtwo is not really a Pokemon you see a lot anymore, but I think in neutral matchups, like for example against Tapu Fini and Charizard, it's still really, really good. He has Dynamic Punches coverage, which basically really helps against Registeel, but ever since Registeel became XL now, it's not as good of a matchup anymore, really. Core breaks here are Ampharos, which still is very fragile, so I think Tapu Fini and Mewtwo both can do a lot there. Brutal Swing Tapu Fini is probably your worst enemy here. Tentacruel is also really tough. You kind of have to go in Charizard against it. If you face it in the lead, the Mewtwo obviously is very good there. And the same for Skuntank. I guess you stay with the Tapu Fini, which can be tough. But I think all around, the Tapu Fini Charizard, of course, is really good. And if you can make Armored Mewtwo work, it's like really good in the right spot. Now, the team that we have here is from Luminous. It's a little bit more off meta than the others we've seen so far. He got to top 7 in Worlds, so one of the best Japanese players around as well. And he's leading Golisopod with Aerial Ace and Liquidation. He has Brutal Swing, Overheat, Galarian Weezing as a safe switch, which is a very unpredictable Pokemon. And it can really be in your benefit or for the worse. And then the closer is the Cobalion, which obviously is a very strong meta Pokemon. Now, one thing that's tough about Galarian Weezing, and that's why I put Charizard and Mandibuzz as core breakers, is that even if you're a fairy, you don't even do that well against Mandibuzz without Play Rough, because if you overheat, you debuff yourselves, and it's just not great, especially considering how tanky that Mandibuzz is. Charizard also pretty problematic. Brutal Swings hit neutral, and Charizard is quite fragile, but it's not ideal. The best way to deal with that is probably get shields down and then Stone Edge or Liquidation it later if possible. Pidgeot's probably very annoying to overcome. They usually don't have great Weezing odds in the back, such as like Virizion and Cobalion. But yeah, they just Feather Dance and probably swap out, which is super annoying. Next team is from also fellow content creator Home Slice Henry. This is a more meta team that we are used to from him, but I think a really good one regardless. Again, that Tentacruel that we also saw on Ishikawa Boys team really just defeats the Tapu Fini so hard, and I think that's one of the benefits you have there. He's also running or suggesting Blizzard to cover the Giratina a little bit better, and yeah, I think Tentacruel was a very solid pick in this meta. You also covered the Registeel twice in the back, although I have to say Double in Ultra League is a little bit iffy against it, but Double is a very flexible Pokemon, and you know, it's still a pretty good pseudo fighter in case it's needed somewhere against like Registeel or Steelix. So I think this is a really good team, one that I might try myself. And speaking of spicy, the next one will blow your mind, which is a Heliolisk, Skeledirge, and Hitmontop. Yeah, this is a very unusual team. This team also goes quite excitedly. I think Heliolisk to like level 42 or so, and Hitmontop is a full level 50. Now, the one thing I like the most about this team, it has 9 different offensive typings here. You have Electric with Volt Switch, right, as Heliolisk. You have Brutal Swing Grass, not as coverage, which you really need to be better against Swampert. You have Skeledirge with Fire, Incinerate fast attack, right? You have Disarming Voice, Fairy, Ghost, Shadow Ball, and a Hitmontop has counter as fast attack, which is fighting obviously, and Triple Axle for ice coverage, and Stone Edge for rock coverage. That makes this team wild, and I actually really like it. I think one Pokemon that can be really tough here is that Deoxys defense, because he's super effective on your fragile Heliolisk, and Hitmontop also struggles there, but I guess you can keep debuffing with the Heliolisk. Another Pokemon that's annoying is Nidoqueen, luckily not as common, and the same goes for the Galarian Weezing, which basically resists your charge attacks from the Heliolisk, and then the Hitmontop doesn't do hot there either. But if you have the resources, this is a pretty fun team to try out. So those were the Ultra League teams that I have for this week. Again, the other 5 are listed in Rice's video, and I will put a link to the graphic in the description as well. I hope you liked this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.